So today I have with me Alfred Dawson Kwanzaa, Mr. Alfred Dawson Kwanzaa from Ghana National Petroleum Corporation, GNPC. He has had an elaborate career as a geophysicist. His education has been from Cape Coast, where he did his BSc Geophysics. This was followed by a stint at KNUST, where he completed his master's in geophysics and seismology. This was followed by another master's in petroleum geoscience, where he likely specialized into one domain. Uh, This is for, and finally, he has also done a strategic management and HR, strategic planning and HR management course in uh, from KNUST. He is currently posted as Deputy General Manager, Research and Data. And thank you, Alfred, for being there with us.
Thank you
And
too for having me, Animesh.
so, Alfred, you've had the experience of working for both public and private sector companies. Given that you have worked in any, you've had the opportunity to work in Mayday, and you are definitely working in GNPC, which is an NOC. So, what? So, which? So, what? So, how has been your experience,
Okay,
and which
great.
one would you prefer, given the current and your experience?
Okay. So thank you very much. So with my experience in the oil and gas industry, as you rightly said, um, I'm currently working with the NOC, the National Oil Company in Ghana, and that has also given me the opportunity to work with ENI in Milan, but that was not more of um, an a working experience where I left GNPC, but it is part of my work that I was doing in GNPC that took me to ENI, Italy, Milan, San Donato to be specific. And you know, ENI is a national oil company, but has got also um, the nature as a private because of what they do. In Ghana, we see them as an IOC, International Oil Company. And then I've also worked with Media in Switzerland through the same arrangement. I would say that, yes, working with Media in Switzerland, working with ENI in Italy, one, their work ethics and then the structure, organizational structure that they have tells a lot in how they go about their things as compared to GNPC. GNPC also has its own organizational structure, perhaps because I am a citizen and I am an indigene, see things differently here in GNPC as compared to over there. But one different thing that one standing difference that comes out is when I was in ENI, they work with projects in mind. So it is project based. And because of that, it is not so much about an 8 to 5 working schedule. It is about how you deliver on the project. Although there is a limited amount of hours that you are supposed to work, it is not so much about you coming to work from 8 and then closing at 5. But if in a week you are supposed to spend 40 hours, you can even compress the 40 hours within 3 days in the week. And then when you are done, you are done. What is needed is at the end of the day, when they call on you to deliver on a project, you are able to deliver. So that is one ethic or one thing that I saw that maybe for some of us in this part of the world, talking about Africa, it will be helpful. But that aside, when it comes to technical know-how, competence, yes, we are almost at par. The only difference is that they may have more softwares and more tools than we have down here. Yeah, so that is what I would say. Yeah.
So
Public sector also, sorry.
you observed a difference in work cultures there, and the fact that they were using tools that were a bit more sophisticated, uh, if I'd put it that way,
Yeah.
compared to what you were using at Ghana National Petroleum Corporation. Okay,
Yeah, not
so these
exactly,
were
not.
geophysics. These were mostly geophysical tools, software, right?
Sorry, please come
These
again.
must have
I missed you on that.
these must have been geophysics. These must have been geophysics software, right? Processing seismic processing workflows and interpretation, and for interpretation and others, right?
Yes, you mean in Milan?
Yeah. So as you mentioned, that they were using softwares that were a bit more advanced, and those were mostly geophysical softwares, right?
Sure.
So both related to interpretation and processing.
Yeah, interpretation and processing. But even it is not so much of the advanced software, but they have variety. That is what I think that we lack over here. So if you come to Ghana, maybe we are focusing on Kingdom, IHS Kingdom, and then Petrel. But over there, they have Amsel Russell that they use for rock physics. They have Petrel, they have Kingdom, they have Decision Space, they have Paleoscan. So you see, they have variety of softwares. Whereas maybe when you come down here, then that was the time that I went, I think somewhere in 2017, we had only maybe Petrol and then Kingdom. And then, of course, based on some of these exposures that we have also sold the idea to our senior management. And now we have Hamster Russell and then other softwares like Petromod for um, Bayesian model and stuffs like that.
So, so how, I mean, so how's the oil and gas industry in Ghana? I mean, you have been working in an operator company, right? Not in an operator NOC. And the software you just mentioned, be it these are all by oil and gas service companies like Halliburton, Schlumberger, or Hampton Russell itself. So, I mean, so how is the oil and gas industry progressing in Ghana? And do you have these service companies based there?
Okay, thank you. So yes, the oil industry in Ghana started so many years back, but it became very, um, let's say, active and then more pronounced in the global industry when we discovered somewhere in the 2007, and then we developed and had our first oil in 2010. And since then, we have been able to come up with about 3 to 4 fields that we are um, at the stages of producing, and then very soon be developing the fourth one. I want to say that progressively we are moving forward. But one thing about the oil industry is that because it's not a renewable, it's going to get finished. And so you have to also search and make sure that you replace your reserves. So that is where the exploration is coming in. And then these tools are being used. The tools, I'm talking about the softwares, are being used. But yes, we have some of the service companies here in Ghana. Um, the system is such that it is a partnership that actually employs them. So for each concession, we have about 4 or 5 companies that come together, and they will make use of the service companies like the Halliburtons and then the Schlumbergers and then the others. So
So
yeah, some
you
of them are in Ghana.
so you work. So you mean to say that generally uh, ventures are taken in as joint ventures together, and then you roll out the tenders to service-based companies, and that is how the functioning goes on.
Okay, so our mode here is that um, it is more like a joint venture, but it's a partnership where at every phase, and then the responsibility that is placed on GNPC. GNPC being a national oil company is a partner to all concessions that we have offshore. So all operated or assets in Ghana We have
The
a
long.
percentage. Yes, we have a percentage. We start paying. So at the initial stage, at the exploration stage, we are carried. So GNPC doesn't pay anything. But the moment we discover oil and then we start developing, then we start paying. And we pay and then we also benefit from the liftings or the extractions of the oil.
So when you position yourself as a geophysicist in that company, I mean, in any company, so uh, so I mean, be it any, be it I mean, be it INI or INI, or be it Mayday, or be it Ghana National Petroleum Corporation, how important do you see that role to be?
You mean the role of a geophysicist?
Yeah,
Oh,
in the
it is
organizational hierarchy, in the organizational hierarchy.
in the organization. Okay. The role of a geophysicist is extremely important and then extremely valuable. And I say this because, I mean, without a geophysicist going out there to survey, to be on a acquisition survey, to acquire the data, to process the data, to interpret the data. In fact, to even design the survey, acquire it, process it, and then interpret the data, the geologist will not be there, and the engineer will not be there to place it well and say that I'm extracting. So we can't actually do without geophysics. I've been on a seismic vessel, and I've also been onshore as a quality control person in a 2D acquisition. And so I know how valuable a geophysicist is. And I think that as a company, we acknowledge that, and we try to see them as they ought to be seen.
So you just narrated that, you just stated that you have had the pleasant experience of going through both, I mean, through all the three stages: acquisition, processing, and even interpretation, as in Mayday. So which one did you like the most, and which one did you hate the most?
Wow, 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 wow. Did I hate any? Did I like? I would say that they all give me a mixture of challenges, good feelings, and then memorable times. For instance, on the acquisition, onshore, had the opportunity to meet with, excuse me, to say people who are not so high in their education. As far as the education is concerned, some of them are just senior high graduates, senior high students, graduates. Some of them may not even know how to put two words together, but they are the people that you are employing to plant your geophones for you. And it's amazing that people who have not sat in classroom before, they can do the work and do it very well because you have taught them. So for me, those things gives me fulfillment. When it comes to interpretation, the exciting thing about interpretation is that sometimes it is very subjective. So we all map a surface and then we present it, and then people are coming from different angles and saying that this is this, this is that, this is that. And that is a geoscientist for you. Until you drill, you will not know what is there. So that is also another good experience. Processing, I did depth processing, and it was more like an interpretation for me. It was more like an interpretation for me. I mean, the results that you get after going through the stages and the steps, it's fulfilling that yes, you are doing maybe um you are doing depth processing, picking velocities, and you end up getting a before and after images. It's quite fulfilling. So it will be difficult for me to point and say that this and this, but I think that I do more of interpretation. I was doing more of interpretation than processing, and then lately acquisition. So I think maybe interpretation will take the better part of me.
I can understand that there is a lot of excitement about interpretation, given that it's so subjective. And I myself like that part of the job most. And that's it. I mean, now we can see that processing interpretation are more catered towards catered towards usage of AI tools and automation. I mean, if you go through any software, even if you go through OpenDetect, I mean, let go of Federal and the rest. Even if you go through open source versions of OpenDetect, you can find that there are tools for automation and AI available. So, what prospects do you see of AI and automation being a game changer in this field?
Yeah, I see that definitely AI is going to help and promote. I know that currently when it comes to interpretation, I know you're asking for process, but when it comes to interpretation, um, we are using AI for. But AI has been in existence for some time. I mentioned PaleoScan. PaleoScan actually uses some kind of AI. If you look at the algorithm, it is basically AI. I mean, when we started, you will pick maybe every 50 line, you'll be picking um, the horizon. AI is making things easier. You just have to set your parameters right. You click and then within a short time, you have the images and you can see your channels and see the geobodies. So AI is going to help. I know that um, fault analysis, AI is also helping in the interpretation of faults. That one is also there. And definitely, if it is even helping in interpretation, then I know that when it comes to processing, it's going to do more. Just that you'll still need that human element to be able to QC, to make sure that you are not just taking everything hook, line, and sinker, but you are controlling it with the geology and then the peculiarity of the methods that you are using.
Yeah, that's true. So it's like, but AI is a good tool to cut costs and, of course, increase profits for organizations, right?
Sure, sure, it is. It is. It's very, very true.
So, given this forming the foundation of our argument, so where and you being in research and data, so where do you think the future R&D is progressing to?
Yeah. So when it comes to the oil and gas industry, future R&D, it depends on where you are looking at. So if you come to places like Africa where we still have um, hydrocarbon reserves and resource that we want to make sure that we bring them up before um, Western world enforces this transition agenda. Ours is into research to know how best we can quickly and then economically bring our hydrocarbons to the surface and make use of it, even how we can still use the hydrocarbons efficiently and effectively so that we can cut down on emissions. And so I know there is research in hydrogen, there is research in trying to capture the carbon and then how you are making use of it in the reserves and other things. So research and development really has a brighter future, and particularly as we transition from um, oil
So,
and gas companies to energy companies. Definitely, we are going
do you
to.
believe do you believe that the oil and gas sector can be completely substituted?
I have my doubt. It can never be completely substituted. Just like the way, yes, coal seems to have left, but people are going back to coal because when it comes to certain um, resources or when it comes to certain appliances, the kind of energy that they need, renewable may not be able to honor or fit for now. So definitely, we'll need to balance it. How we are going to perhaps even someone say not necessarily transition, but transform the hydrocarbons into something that will be more friendly, environmentally friendly to be used.
So bringing in my own experience, so I was at so EAG London 2019. So we have that young association, that young me.
Mhm.
So this was the same. This was kind of the same question that was going on, and I happened to have. Uh, I mean, during that discussion, I just stood up and asked this query. The conversation was going around something around these same transition points, and I asked them this question that say we substitute it for energy. Say that we bring in substitutes for energy, the energy fraction of the oil and gas. But our daily needs and essentials have become so dependent on, say, for example, plastics itself, that we won't be able to substitute it there. I mean, if you look at a bike, or if you look at if you look at a laptop itself,
Mhm.
or maybe even the seats on which we are seated. So raxine is something that comes out of uh, such, that is a derivative from crude oil. So we wouldn't be able to substitute those things that quickly. Those components would remain. So I think that is where, even if we are able to substitute it in the energy mix somehow, as you stated, I mean, I agree with you that it cannot be completely substituted.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
uh,
It
but
cannot
even if
be, and even those who want to go into solar, the batteries that you would need, all of them needs lithium, and lithium you have to still go and mine those things, and those will also have negative effect and impact on the environment. So it's not something that we can do away with entirely, because there is even cost in also handling. I mean, people are doing research into how to handle solar panels after their lifespan of 20 to 25 years. How are you going to manage and handle the solar? Are you going to bend them? Are you going to how are you going to disintegrate them? So all those things are things that will come up along the line.
so, the issue is, I mean, uh, adding to your background now, that you are currently pursuing a PhD, and solar happens to be the focus, the major focus for now. You have a paper in Nature Scientific Reports, and given that, how do you believe that climate sustainable development goals would affect the oil and gas sector, and that this would somehow be able to replace it?
Um, it is a yes and no. Yes and no in the sense that, first of all, let me say no in the sense that I think yesterday I saw a report by Shell UK where no, Exxon rather, where they were declaring so much profits for the past 2 years or so, even more than what's in the past they have recorded. And this is in a period where we have had COP, is it 27, 26, and people have been making noise about transition, but see, they are making profits. I think that it is something that it will not happen now, and it might not affect it. But I say yes, it will affect it because it is a drive from with a global perspective and an angle. You may have to do certain things to conform, to show that you are committed to the green agenda and you are not causing any harm to the environment. And so you would also try to now rebrand to sing along and then move along. And that is why we have oil and gas companies now changing their names to energy companies, having energy departments and units, directorates, and all those things. They are doing it not necessarily to say that they are stopping their oil and gas, but just so that they can conform and they will be seen as people who are not against the transition agenda. So that's what I
It,
would say.
so it is all about, it all boils down to public perception that we are doing something for the betterment of climate too.
Yes,
Because even I
yes.
went through the reports that you mentioned, I think day before yesterday, even in India, a newspaper had cited it, and I happened to have read it. I was just going
Okay.
through the graphs, and there were companies that had trebled their profits.
Yeah.
It's like trebled and quadrupled their profits. So it was like something. I mean, and these were all oil and gas companies, and they were roping in those benefits from oil and gas. I mean, hydrocarbons itself. So the demand hasn't gone down as such. And even if they put change their names and add energy to it, I I mean they're still on the road, but they haven't reached there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
do, so do you think if there is such a substitution and the energy mix changes, do you think it would? I mean, it is from your personal viewpoint, and you know it much better, and that's why I'll put it from the viewpoint of Ghana. Do you think it would change the landscape for your nation?
What would change the landscape? Sorry, I didn't get the first one. You mean the transition?
Yeah, if the transition occurs, would it change the landscape for your nation? I mean, Ghana
Um,
is gold, right? And
yeah, I don't think so. But I know that as a country, we
I mean,
have
the question is
also
in all good faith. There's nothing that way, but my question still pertains that how would it change the landscape
oh,
from the
okay.
viewpoint of Ghana?
Yes. So when the transition happens, unless we are not well prepared, and as I was saying, we already have a policy on energy transition. And I think our focus is on nuclear energy and then gas. So that is the way that we are going. And so if everything falls in place and then we live up to the plans and expectations, then I can say that yes, I can say that it might not change so much because by then we would have prepared and we know that we are going for nuclear and not something that would come to us as unprepared and then all of a sudden. But changing the landscape in terms of hydrocarbons, I don't think so. I think that if even we don't have to export, we will still use hydrocarbons in Ghana or in the country. Yeah, because
Yeah,
I know we have electric cars, but it's just one or two. It didn't go far. Someone introduced it, and so it's something that it will take time. It will not be today or tomorrow. It will take time.
if I were to add my personal viewpoint into it, I hope you wouldn't mind.
Continue.
Um, so, since Ghana has an abundance of oil and gas resources, I believe that its domestic consumption would rely on the oil and gas, while countries which lack such resources may opt for the uh, transition one. And that said, I think Ghana, all since Ghana lies on the Gulf of Guinea region, in that around that cape, so and just below the Sahel region. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
just below the
Yeah.
Sahel region. I mean, from Sahara to Sahel, and then the savannas and the tropical rainforest, a bit of tropical rainforest region. I think it is, I mean, given that all that equatorial region there, I think it's much better that, I mean, that you have a tremendous opportunity to tap solar energy. I think, right?
Yeah, we have opportunity for solar, especially as you,
and even wind
sorry.
energy, I think. And even
Yeah,
wind energy.
wind, yes, the wind resource assessment that has taken place in Ghana shows that um, it's only at the coast. It's much more pronounced at the coast. But when it comes to solar, yeah, you are right that with solar, um, we have we have huge potentials with solar, but it still comes back to research. It still comes back to research.
Yeah, so it was eventually boiled down to this, right?
Sorry. Yeah, so I think that as you are saying, it's very true. But one thing about hello.
Hello, yeah, I can listen.
So one thing about our hydrocarbon industry in Ghana is that it's not only for the domestic use. We also export. And in fact, if you look at our GDP, the oil revenue takes a huge portion of it. And so, um, although we have solar and although the wind may help us, the hydrocarbon is not only being used as a domestic resource, but it's exported and then gives us some foreign exchange. So it's something that we would still have to rely on the
So
hydrocarbon.
it's somehow it's somehow the backbone of your economy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's very, very huge and very, very um it's a critical part. It's a critical part.
So that's wonderful, Alfred, and and I'm humbled by your presence and grateful for the interview that you've given me. And with that, I say that it has been a pleasant opportunity to interact with you and get to know so much about Ghana, about the way the energy sector, the former oil and gas sector is progressing, and your viewpoints on it. And thank you.
Thank you very much, Animation. I'm also grateful for this opportunity. And I thank you and I wish you all the best. I'm sure we can have another time to continue.
So we'll continue this discussion.
Great.
Can you stop the recording?
Okay, so I would thank you.
Yeah.